On September 24, 2017, Jude Gell was cooking his signature sardines dish for Sunday dinner at his mum's when he realized they'd run out of sauce. Just 3 minutes from her home when he popped to their local corner shop. His 2-year-old daughter loved to have ketchup with her fish, so doting dad Jude popped to the local shop just a 3-minute walk away. There, he was pictured on CCTV buying the ketchup and a lollipop for his little girl. As Jude made his way back to his mum's, he was attacked and stabbed repeatedly, as he walked through an alleyway. With the pot of food he'd been cooking still boiling on the stove, Jude Gell had been fatally stabbed. He was pronounced dead in the street at 6:42 p.m., around an hour after the stabbing. To date, no one has been prosecuted for his murder after 3 men suspected of killing him were acquitted in court. Jude Gell's mum has told of her pain the day he died. She had said, "The day he died he came to my house to cook for the family, like he did every Sunday. We had a lovely chat and then he said, 'I'm going down to start cooking.' I was up in bed and I could smell the food, I could hear his music. Then out of nowhere, I heard the doorbell ring. I waited to hear Jude answer the door, but then I heard someone banging on the door. I was thinking, why has he not answered the door? The banging didn't stop, so I pulled myself over my bed and opened my window. Then I saw a woman I had never seen before and she said, 'You need to come. Your son's been stabbed.'" Jude's mum had no idea that her son had popped out to the shop and was attacked on his way home. She continued, "I started screaming, 'Jude's been stabbed.' I said, 'Call the police.' She said, 'They've already been called.' I wasn't dressed to leave the house. I couldn't think. I was panicking. I ended up going down in my coat and crawled down the stairs. I went to the door and I was blocked in. My neighbors were telling me, 'Don't come out. You don't want to see him like this.' I said, 'Please let me see him before he's taken to the hospital, before he's in the ambulance,' and they said no. I think of him every day, every minute, every second. Jude is my life and he's part of me, he's with me all of the time." Jude Gell's legacy will live on through the memories of those who loved him and through the efforts of those who continue to fight for a safer and more just society.
We are absolutely devastated by Shane's murder. He was a young man, just 26 years old, with his whole life ahead of him. His life was cut cruelly short in the early hours of Saturday, the 1st of December, when he was brutally stabbed in the chest just yards from his home. Shane was much loved by all his family, and his death has left a huge gap in all our lives. His children, who are only 6 and 4, will now grow up without knowing their father. Shane was a happy-go-lucky son who enjoyed spending time with his family and friends. He spent much of his time with Craig, who was not only his brother, but he was his best friend.
26-year-old Shane Fox died as a result of a stab wound to the chest, after being assaulted near his home on the Hemingwell estate, Wellingborough, shortly after 2 a.m., on the 1st of December 2018. On the night Shane was killed, he returned to Nest Farm Crescent from the direction of Nest Farm Road across a grassed area and footpath leading to flats. He was attacked near the car park as he made his way back to his flat. This is where he sustained his fatal stab wound. At the time of the attack, Shane was with another man who was also assaulted. He too sustained a stab wound but thankfully was not seriously injured. The suspect was described at the time as a black male in his 20s, wearing a dark-colored puffer-style jacket. Detective Chief Inspector Adam Pendlebury from Northamptonshire Police's Major Crime Team said, This is still very much a live investigation, and we remain as determined as ever to find out who killed Shane and to get some much-needed answers for his family. Shane was killed just 3 weeks before Christmas in 2018, and I am certain that there are people out there who have the information we need to further this investigation and find the person responsible. One of the men arrested, a 39-year-old man, was released without charge, and the other, a 22-year-old man, was released under investigation pending further inquiries. Speaking to ITV News Anglia, the parents of Shane Fox said that even nearly 4 years on, every day is a nightmare. You wake up, partly you think it's not true, then you also think this person is roaming around living his life, when he's got no conscience, said Mrs. Fox. He can't have a conscience, knowing what he has done and still getting away with it. Detective Inspector Adam Pendlebury from Northamptonshire Police said, "We remain as determined as ever to find out who killed Shane and to get some much-needed answers for his family."
Our mother loved life. She was very positive, loved people. So we just think it's really important that we do the same.
Exactly 30 years ago, Lauren Bell's seemingly happy, successful mother Penny was murdered in a particularly savage attack.
My thoughts now are that if someone can do this, then they will do it again. I know they will. And I know what devastation it's caused to me and my family.
As her husband and children grieved, police began their investigation. But 3 decades on, who killed Penny and why remains a mystery. The businesswoman
Penny Bell was an English businesswoman who was murdered on the 6th of June 1991, in the car park of Gurnell Leisure Centre, Greenford, London. She was stabbed over 50 times as she sat behind the wheel of her car. Penny Bell lived with her husband, Alistair Bell, and her 2 children. They moved to Buckinghamshire in October 1987. Penny was a partner in a successful employment agency. The family home was undergoing extensive renovations. Penny had withdrawn £8,500 from her and her husband's joint bank account 3 days before her death. She had never previously withdrawn such a large sum of cash, and it remains unaccounted for. At the police press conference on the 8th of June 1991, Alistair Bell described his wife Penny as having something on her mind the night before her death, and that she went to bed early. On the morning of the 6th of June 1991, Alistair Bell left the house as usual. He described his wife's demeanour as bright and chirpy. Penny left her home in her Jaguar at around 9:40, which was her usual leaving time. She informed the builders, who were renovating the kitchen, that she was running late for an appointment. No record of this appointment was later found in her diary, and it has never been conclusively established who she was meeting. A witness saw a man waiting by a brown or bronze-coloured car get into a blue Jaguar about 9:50 a.m. opposite the Bridgetine Convent and Guest House adjacent to Black Park. The witness, who was walking her dog, was sure the driver of the Jaguar was Penny Bell. Another witness next recalled a blue Jaguar driving along the road at about 10:20 at 10 to 15 miles per hour with its hazard lights flashing. A third witness came forward 6 months after the murder and claimed he saw Penny driving into the car park with a passenger and mouthing an appeal for help. Penny was murdered around 10:30. She was seen motionless in the driver's seat of her car in the leisure centre car park at 11 o'clock. But a passersby assumed she was sleeping. It wasn't until later that the police were alerted and her death was discovered. She had been stabbed more than 50 times in the chest and arms with a 3 to 4 inch blade, in what police were to describe as a frenzied attack. A forensic investigation determined that the killer had stabbed her from the passenger seat, before exiting the car and frantically stabbing her from the driver's side, most likely after she was already dead. The police investigation determined that Penny was a happily married and successful businesswoman, and could find no reason why anyone would want to kill her. Police believed that it was very likely that Bell knew her killer. Lauren Bell believes that her mother knew her killer, as the ferocity of the attack suggests a crime of passion. I think it was someone who wanted her but couldn't have her. Police had also examined Penny's husband Alistair as a suspect, as he inherited the bulk of his wife's estate as well as a £200,000 life insurance payout. However, they found no evidence to link him to his wife's murder, and he had a verified alibi of being at work on the morning of her death. In a 2015 CBS reality documentary on Penny's case, her daughter Lauren said she had a feeling as to who was responsible for the murder, but did not elaborate. Her daughter Lauren Bell has turned detective in an attempt to solve the mystery. She has teamed up with Brian Edwards, the officer who led the initial police investigation into the murder over 30 years ago. Lauren said, "Brian and I are looking at every detail of Mum's life to establish new evidence. I believe we will uncover who killed Mum." After such a brutal attack in a public place, the police were confident back in 1991 the killer would be found. But no witnesses to the attack were discovered, and despite a huge inquiry, neither the killer nor a motive have ever been identified. Her murder remains unsolved. During London's Notting Hill Carnival, a man was stabbed to death in a senseless act of violence. Delivery driver Greg Watson, 21, was fatally stabbed in the stomach within seconds of trying to stop men pestering a group of teenage girls. Greg Watson had been stabbed in a cowardly attack with a kitchen knife, which ultimately resulted in his death. It was a truly senseless display of violence. He was stabbed very quickly and very suddenly. Greg Watson's girlfriend, Lisa Morgan, had called out to the alleged attacker. "You have knifed him." His reaction was coldly to say, "So what?" Greg Watson, who lived with his mother in West London, had been enjoying the carnival with Miss Morgan, his 15-year-old cousin, and her friend. The group were making their way home at around 10 p.m. when the girls were approached by a group of youths who had been pestering the females. Greg had intervened to defuse the situation. But unfortunately, Greg was singled out. The attacker had grabbed his left arm and calmly and deliberately attacked him. After the knife was thrust into Greg Watson, the group had run off. Greg staggered a short distance to get help but collapsed. He was pronounced dead in hospital. Sean Sephinis, 20, of Wembley, North London, denies murdering Mr. Watson at the carnival last year. He was arrested 2 weeks later, hiding in his nephew's wardrobe, but denied being the knifeman. A former friend allegedly recognized him and other youths running away from the scene. The jury was shown a CCTV video of the incident, but the footage did not show the front of the attacker's head. The case continues.